What are some strategies for optimal sleep? I'm Dr. Chad Swanson. I'm an emergency physician, and I'm on a journey to understand and transform our health system. I will be talking, there are a number of benefits that sleep have for our health, from longevity to mental health to physical health, that I'll be talking about in a different video. In this video, I'll be talking about specific strategies and how I've utilized them as an emergency physician that works exclusively nights. So I work many nights from about 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. I've been reading a book by Dr. Peter Attia called Outlive, and in it, in chapter 16, he talks about sleep. And at the very end, he summarizes his recommendations. He gives 10, he calls them operating conditions for ideal sleep. He does note to not obsess over these because that can worsen our sleep. So I'll read each one of these and then I'll share my experience with them. Number one is don't eat alcohol. If you absolutely must, he says, take one drink before 6 p.m. That's not an issue for me. Number two, don't eat anything less than 3 hours before bed. I often find myself binging right before bed, often ice cream. So that's something that I can definitely work on. I do find that I have a little bit of reflux and that eating before bed can make my reflux worse. Avoid electronics 2 hours before bed. This seems like something that many could do better at, and I certainly could. In fact, I sometimes find myself in bed with my phone watching videos or something. It is helpful that I turn off the screen and then just listen to it, and then I'll fall asleep to that. But avoiding electronics 2 hours before bed is something that's based on science. Reading books is more effective to help us fall asleep. And then I have an app called, let's see, what's it called? Headspace. That's a meditation app. And there's 20 minutes of breathing exercises and other meditations that also help me to fall asleep. Number four, avoid anxiety-producing activities 1 hour before bed. So he mentions emails, social media, really any conversation, anything that might, thoughts, any condition that might lead to our anxiety before bed. Number five, for those that can, a sauna or hot tub before bed. Number six, cool the room to the mid-60s. I found that that's effective as well. Number seven, darken the room completely, so to the point he says where you can't even see your hand in front of your eyes. I would say that this is the most important condition. So I have dark shades over my windows. Recently, I've noticed that there's a little bit of light getting through. I also use an eye shade. He recommends one called an Alaska Bear. The one that I use has a very soft and kind of full rim that goes right over my eyes. And I find that that's comfortable and works well. But I can't stress enough the importance of light for our sleep. So for example, what I found that works best for me is that when I go into work, I immediately turn on all the lights. I maximize the light coming out of the computers, and I bring in two very bright lights that I turn on. And then right at about 4 a.m., so about 3 hours before my shift ends, I turn those lights down so that I have several hours of decreased light. And then I wear some, they're orange, I think they're blue light blocking glasses on the way home. And I try to go right to bed on the way home. And I found that's quite effective. 8 is go to bed at least 8 hours, preferably 9 hours before you need to wake up. So like Dr. Attia, especially in medical training, I remember there was a time when I committed myself to getting at least 5 hours of sleep. So I said that less than 5 hours was just not acceptable. And it's amazing to me now to think that I needed to do that, that I was at a place in my life where I was regularly getting less than 5 hours of sleep. Good, consistent sleep that allows us to get into deep sleep for at least 7 hours, up to 9 hours at a time, has been shown to be very beneficial for our health. Number 9, he says to have a fixed wake-up time. Number 10, like I said initially, is don't obsess over sleep. So try not to think too much about how you're getting to sleep or not. That's some of these apps that with meditation and reading and other things can help with that. So there are systems implications for these strategies for good sleep. And the way I like to think about systems-wide implications is as a practicing physician, it's helpful for me to think, what if I were incentivized, whether it be financially, otherwise, based on the overall health of my patients as opposed to just an episode of clinical care, or if sleep were used as a marker. So if there was some way to measure, or there are metrics based on how well my patients were sleeping, then what would I change? And obviously that may not be possible, and it may not even be desirable because there could be unintended consequences. But at least it gets me thinking about how, as a health system, we could at least mention the importance of sleep, or find ways through apps or other ways to track people's sleep. Another strategy that's come to mind is engaging with family members. So a spouse or a partner or a good friend might be able to follow up with a patient to ensure that they're getting good sleep. I'd love to know your experience with sleep, what strategies you found that are helpful or not, as well as the systems implications for the importance of sleep in our health.